A 2016 Chapman University survey of American fears revealed that a quarter of all respondents reported having a fear of public speaking. Public speaking anxiety affects all types of people, not just introverts or quiet people, as some may assume. I've been teaching public speaking for 15 years now, and I can admit to you that I still get nervous when speaking in front of people. It's totally normal. Today, I'll share with you a little bit more information about what public speaking anxiety is, why it's important to work to manage your public speaking anxiety, and strategies that will help you along the way. The truth is that public speaking is a valuable tool to all humans. We need diverse individuals in our communities and societies that are competent and confident in communication publicly. That's how we accomplish anything. Also, your future bosses will thank you for spending the time now to learn how to manage your public speaking anxiety. Your textbook offers a variety of myths related to public speaking. It's important to know the truth because we can often justify these myths as reasons why we just aren't good at public speaking and never will be. One of these myths is either you have it or you don't. This is an oversimplification of humans. It assumes that there are those of us who will never acquire the skills to be effective public speakers. Centuries of evidence suggest that people without natural talent in public speaking can still become effective speakers with proper training and practice. The hard truth is here that it does take dedication and work, and it's totally worth it. If you want to get specific, the fear of public speaking or public speaking anxiety is classified as glossophobia. It's a common form of nervousness people feel either before, during, and or after speaking in public. It also might help to normalize this anxiety through an understanding of humans' fight, flight, or freeze response. In essence, our bodies are ramping us up biochemically to defend ourselves, run away, or try to blend into our environment to escape. But unfortunately, none of these lead to effective public speaking. Simply put, our body feels this way when it faces challenges or threats, and it's completely normal. This natural bodily response often results in increased heart rate, flushed skin, sweaty palms, and a nervous stomach, stuttering, a sense of disorientation, and many other things. These feelings knock us off our game. They cause us to rush through our speeches, make us feel more self-conscious so we have less eye contact with our audience. And bioevolutionary nonverbal behavior adds to this that when we feel these huge spikes of nervousness, we oftentimes resort to soothing and calming ourselves in the ways that our caregivers calmed us when we were infants. So when people get nervous, you might see them rocking back and forth or soothing themselves by stroking their hair or their arms, or maybe even holding themselves really tightly. I often ask my students in my public speaking classes what public speaking evokes in them, and I invite them to share those feelings in front of the class. And in that way, the students can see that they're all in the same boat. Everyone experiences these forms of nervousness. When it comes down to it, these are uncomfortable feelings, and if we're honest, we'd rather not feel them. However, they are completely normal, and we can learn to recognize them as normal, and that takes the punch out of them. Let's define what public speaking actually is. More generally, it's referred to as communication apprehension, which is an umbrella term for many forms of communication anxiety. This can be talking on the phone, having intimate conversations, making small talk at a party, or, of course, giving a speech in class. People's public speaking anxiety is often rooted in more specific types of communication apprehension. I'll name two of them. The first is called trait anxiety. Trait anxiety produces anxiousness that's related to a personality or specific experiences or likes or dislikes or fears that a person has. It's a long-term characteristic rather than a temporary feeling. And oftentimes, people who struggle with trait anxiety experience fear and anxiety in communication that other people do not. The second is state anxiety. This is anxiety that's linked to a particular situation, and you guessed it, public speaking is a great example of that. Public speaking anxiety is when people feel fear, nervousness, anxiety in a particular situation related to speaking in front of a group of people, and then when that situation's over, their fear is gone. Their fear does not resurface when they are having an interpersonal conversation with their friends later. It is temporary and limited. Knowing more about communication apprehension, how it manifests in you, can be a great first step to minimizing its hold over you. If you can learn to anticipate it and normalize it, you'll be taking steps to being a more confident public speaker. So let's talk next a bit about why it's important to work to minimize your public speaking anxiety. Wouldn't it be wonderful if there was a quick fix that would reduce public speaking fear? But as stated before, we're just experiencing natural human responses to challenging situations. And it just so happens that this challenging situation is very worthy of improving on. Arguably, the most important reason to address your public speaking apprehension is that it will help you out immeasurably in your future career. Communication skills like public speaking continue to be identified by businesses as, quote, one of the most common but hardest to find job skills, end quote. So think of it this way. If you can learn to manage your public speaking anxiety, you'll be a candidate with one of the greatest edges among your competition. So let's turn our attention to what we can do to actively reduce our public speaking anxiety. I encourage you to try some of these strategies out to help yourself become a more confident public speaker. One of the first is to pick topics that you care about and you're interested in. Confidence is greatly enhanced from motivation and expertise. So be critical and think about the topics that you want to take on. And remember that you'll be with these topics for weeks at a time. Another strategy is to prepare in advance. Public speaking anxiety can lead to procrastinating. Study after study shows that procrastinating isn't just laziness or poor time management. It's actually a byproduct of negative emotions like guilt, anxiety, depression, or low self-worth, which is actually very different than we are taught to believe about procrastination. Procrastination is not just waiting or delaying, it's a decision not to act. If you don't prepare and practice enough, you are likely not to perform well. And if you don't perform well, it oftentimes will affect your anxiety in your next public speaking experience, and this turns into a self-fulfilling prophecy. Many tasks that we must achieve at one point or another seem insurmountable. Think about that 25-page final paper in your economics class. One of the best ways to begin to feel in control of a task is to make a plan forward and simply take action, even if that action is very small. Most of us feel a sense of empowerment by taking action, and this is confidence. Practice. I advise my students to practice their speeches all the way through 5 to 10 times. Practice it all the way through so that if you mess up, you aren't likely to train your brain to go back to the beginning. Practice through your mistakes all the way to the end, because if you keep restarting your speech, you'll end up with a fabulous first main point and a very unpolished conclusion. Practice with your visual aids, and practice how you want to perform. So lock your roommates out, line up your teddy bears to be your audience, and give it your best shot, standing up as you want to perform it. If you practice your speech sitting down on the edge of your bed reading quietly to yourself, you're likely to train your brain that that's how the delivery should go. Power poses. If you haven't already, treat yourself to one of the most popular TED Talks of all time. The famous popular science TED Talk called Your Body Language May Shape Who You Are, which shows research and application of postural effects, also known as power poses, on the confidence-related hormones in our body. In summary, standing in certain proud positions and confident postures for a few minutes can change your body's hormones and change the way you feel about yourself. Try it out. Control what you can. As much as you are able to, choose the date and time and order that you'll give your speech. Think about it. Would you like to go first so that you don't have anybody to compare yourself to? Or would you like to go last so that you can see how everybody else does first? Also, take into consideration your other school syllabi or work schedules, and choose speaking days that will put you in a good frame for speaking. For example, if you're doing a closing shift on Tuesday night at your restaurant, then Wednesday is probably not a good speaking day for you. And after the speech, if you find that the day, the time, or the order didn't serve you well, then try out a different one next time. Make sure you know the speech requirements well. These requirements can be found in your course book, on Canvas, and will be elaborated on by your instructor. Also, watch the example speeches so you can compare what you're doing to what students have done before. And ask clarifying questions of your instructors, like, is there a grade deduction for going over time? And if there's a grade deduction, what is it? Knowing the answers to these questions will help you feel more confident going into your speech. Get to know your audience and your speaking environment. Whether your class is face-to-face, hybrid, or completely online, get to know your audience members. Find those friendly faces in the audience and speak to them. And remember, when it's your turn to be an audience member, be one of those friendly faces. Treat yourself well in the days leading up to your speech. Eat well, sleep well, exercise to relieve excess energy. Avoid caffeine on the day of your speech. Believe me, adrenaline will be enough. Avoid alcohol and drugs as a way to curb your anxiety. They'll manipulate your confidence and you'll think you're performing at your peak, and your audience will see otherwise. Also, stay away from new stressors on the day of your speech, like don't get a new haircut that day, and choose what you're going to wear the day before. Remember, look good, feel good. Choose clothing that you already know looks good on you. You got this. Use a comfort item. Yes, the comfort item is similar to your Snooki blanket from when you were a kid, but this one's a little bit more grown up and less obvious. My comfort item is my cup or bottle of water. When I feel a little bit out of sorts from anxiety, I pause and take a sip of water. Looks totally natural, and I get a moment to think. Be realistic. Remember that you've lived a lot of moments in your life, and you're gonna live a lot more, even after the conclusion of your speech. It might be stressful, but you've performed well under stress before, and you will again. Set up a reward for yourself, like getting your favorite coffee drink after your speech, and promise no matter what goes on your speech, you'll get that reward afterwards. This trains your brain to associate positive feelings with public speaking, and we all need more of that. Remember to breathe, and the deep kind of breathing that involves your diaphragm. This does a lot of good for leveling anxiety. Picture yourself doing well, even if all you can picture is your audience clapping for you and you taking your seat again. And lastly, know that taking this class will not make your public speaking anxiety disappear. But taking steps to become more confident of a speaker is some of the most important work that you can do in college to prepare you for your professional future. In this session, we've learned a little bit about public speaking anxiety, why it's important to learn to manage your anxiety, and some helpful strategies along the way. Who knows? Trying out some of these strategies might help you modify your public speaking anxiety into public speaking excitement.